On the morning of December 26, 1996, 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey was reported missing from her home in Boulder, Colorado. Within hours, the search for a missing child became a homicide investigation, one that would be hindered by the events of that very first day. At 5:52 a.m., Patsy Ramsey called 911 to report finding a ransom note on the stairs. Soon after, Boulder police arrived at the upscale property. Because it was the day after Christmas, the responding police department was short-staffed. Officers sealed off JonBenét's bedroom, but left the rest of the house completely unsecured. Throughout the morning, family friends, a pastor, and victims' advocates arrived, walking freely through the home. This uncontrolled foot traffic spread throughout the ground floor and into the basement. Visitors wiped surfaces, used the bathrooms, and moved objects, inadvertently cross-contaminating potential evidence during the most critical hours of the investigation. At 1 p.m., a detective asked John Ramsey to help conduct another sweep of the property to look for anything out of place. John and a family friend headed down into the basement. Inside a dark, little-used storage room known as the wine cellar, John discovered his daughter's body. Reacting in a panic, he pulled the duct tape from her mouth and attempted to untie her hands, and carried her upstairs to the living room. Moving the body compromised the immediate area where the crime occurred. Between the unsealed perimeter, the influx of guests, and the disruption of the victim's remains, the physical crime scene was corrupted before a formal forensic team could even begin their work. The initial failure to secure the house was heavily influenced by a single piece of evidence. The police believed they were dealing with a kidnapping and that the perpetrator had already left because of a handwritten letter found on the bottom step of a spiral staircase. This ransom note is highly unusual. Most demands are short and direct, but this letter stretches across 3 handwritten pages, a length that significantly deviates from typical kidnapping behavior. The demands were also remarkably specific. The authors, claiming to represent a small foreign faction, demanded exactly $118,000. That figure matched almost to the dollar an annual bonus John Ramsey had recently received from his employer. The physical construction of the note presented another puzzle. The paper was taken from the middle of a notepad belonging to Patsy Ramsey, and it was written with a pen found in the house. Investigators also discovered a false start practice draft left behind on the pad. These details, the intimate financial knowledge and the use of household materials, led early investigators to suspect the family. A prominent theory emerged that Patsy Ramsey authored the note to stage a kidnapping after a fatal domestic dispute. However, independent forensic document analysis challenged that narrative. 6 separate handwriting experts, including a document analyst for the U.S. Secret Service, evaluated the letter against Patsy's writing samples. The consensus was that she likely did not write the note. The note implies the author knew the family's exact financial situation, yet forensic handwriting analysis points away from the parents and toward an unknown outsider. This autopsy report shifts the focus from psychological theories to hard medical facts. The final diagnosis identifies the causes of death as ligature strangulation and severe craniocerebral trauma. This section of the document details a complex weapon left at the scene. The killer used white synthetic paratopord tied around a wooden stick, later identified as a piece of a paintbrush, to fashion a tightening garrote. Surrounding the crime scene were artifacts that did not belong to the family. In the basement playroom, investigators noted a window with a broken pane. Below it sat a suitcase, moved from its usual storage place, and the foliage in the exterior window well had been recently cleared. Inside, a fresh boot print from a HI-TEC brand shoe was pressed into the mold on the basement floor. Neither parent owned shoes of that brand. Furthermore, the torn duct tape found over the victim's mouth contained unidentified animal hair, determined to be from a beaver. A subsequent review of the autopsy photographs by a forensic pathologist identified distinctive, patterned abrasions on the victim's right cheek and lower left back. These uniform marks are consistent with the application of a handheld stun gun. A stun gun used for subdual and a custom-built garrote indicate a level of preparation beyond a spontaneous domestic accident. These specific tools reflect a deliberate strategy to control and silence a victim. While logistical failures and conflicting theories stalled the case for years, one microscopic piece of evidence managed to survive the contamination of that first morning. This evidence log from the autopsy details the collection of swabs and fingernail clippings. Forensic testing of these samples revealed DNA belonging to an unknown male found underneath JonBenét's fingernails and mixed with blood in her underwear. In 2008, advancements in touch DNA technology allowed investigators to test the long johns the victim was wearing. The results yielded a male DNA profile that matched the exact genetic markers found under her fingernails. Based on this profile, the district attorney publicly exonerated the Ramsey family. Despite that clearance, the investigation remains deeply entangled in its early missteps. Over the past 26 years, the Boulder Police Department has processed more than 21,000 tips. A 1999 grand jury convened and dismissed without an indictment, while a relentless news cycle fed public speculation. Recently, a renewed push for answers has gained momentum. In late 2023, law enforcement convened the Colorado Cold Case Review Team. This group digitized over 40,000 reports and 2,500 pieces of evidence to create a massive, searchable database. The procedural failures of day one permanently clouded the investigation. However, the physical evidence that survived, the parachute cord, the note, and the unknown male DNA, remains in state custody, awaiting a definitive match in modern genetic databases.